political experience or not, Donald Trump is set to be our next president and will be sworn into office in January. And with that comes some questions and some concerns about his policies. Today we're talking specifically about immigration with immigration attorney Ann Badmus, who is in Frisco, Texas with Scheef and Stone law firm. And Ann, you specialize in immigration law. Let's first talk about kind of some of his policies and what he was saying during the campaign as to kind of what we're hearing now.
Okay, well, I mean, what we're hearing now certainly seems to be a little tempering of what we heard during the campaign. But looking at what he's talking about now, especially this past weekend with respect to the deportation or anticipated deportation of maybe 2 to 3 million, according to what he said, and some of the other policies that or proposals that we see on his website, it's cause for concern for many of immigrants. Certainly, those even in the legal process have concerns and just little wary of what will happen. And so we're getting a lot of calls, just trying to figure out what will happen with immigration once Donald Trump takes office.
And what I have been seeing here in southeastern Minnesota, especially in Rochester, where we have a lot of diversity who live here, and I have been hearing a lot of people saying that they are more scared about being deported than they are anything else. So what's the likelihood that this is going to happen? It's easier said than done, this we know.
Well, certainly, if you're talking about deportation, of course, every case is different. There are a lot of, possibilities in the law for each individual. Some, not a lot, but some people may have actually a way of not being deported if they're put into deportation proceedings. They may be able to make a case to stay here, whereas probably the great majority would not be. Those who are already in a legal immigration process, in most cases, there should not be a concern for deportation. It's really those who are kind of on the edge that don't really have a process in place or have been trying, but unfortunately the law does not allow them to correct their status. And so, yes, for those in those situations, it could be a concern. There's also the concern more immediately with those, you may have heard the DACA kids, pretty much those who were given the deferred action by President Obama. Since it is a presidential action, it basically meaning that if the president revokes it, it's revoked immediately. That's one of the, at least during the campaign, a promise made that these DACA, about 700,000 DACA kids would no longer have DACA once President Trump took office. So that is a big concern, and that's one of the areas that many people feel a little concerned about, because it does affect families and kids who have actually gone through college here, yep, have jobs, and may not have that.
Okay. And what we've been hearing more recently, yesterday, or maybe it was Sunday, that Donald Trump is going to focus his policy more so, starting out at least from what we're understanding, on those with criminal histories, the drug dealers, the gang members, people with violent or criminal histories who are here illegally. So it's not necessarily the families who are contributing members to society, even though they may be undocumented, thus illegal immigrants. That's not who he says that he's looking at.
Right, and that's what he's saying, at least initially, because my understanding is that after that part is done, then he's going to be looking at what will happen to those who are not in that particular situation. So, yes, from what I understand, not immediately will we be seeing those who aren't, having those criminal records being pursued for deportation. But it's not off the table as far as I can tell. Okay,
well, what about the other side of this and the people who say if you're here illegally, that in itself is still illegal? So help people kind of understand that doing this broad sweep maybe is doing a lot more harm than good.
Right. So when we talk about illegal, we have to look at what the law says, of course. So in itself, it is considered not legal to be here in the United States without authorization, whether you came in with authorization with the visa and let that expire, or whether you came across the border. In most cases, it's not a criminal offense. It is an administrative offense. And if you are in the process of being deported, you do have, in most cases, the ability to, as I mentioned before, go through a deportation court and make your case. If those people, many of those who will not have that ability to make a case, to me, I believe it will certainly uproot a lot of, certainly not only families, but also businesses, the economy as a whole. I mean, I think there's been studies done that those who are even here illegally contribute in many ways to taxes, whether it's sales tax or whether it's income tax, all kinds of intertwine into the system. So if you're talking about 10 million people, I believe that will have an impact. And there's been studies that have talked about this.
Okay, well, there's a difference, as we know, with candidates who campaign and then those who are actually elected into office, and a lot changes between those months. So we shall see what happens. Ann Badmus, who is an immigration attorney in Frisco, Texas, we appreciate your time and certainly your insight, Ann.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back.